Hey Tubes, down in the shop again, and just messing with the sears, looking at the different ways I might be able to hook that thing up. Here's what we've got. Well, the first order of business was to get this thing up off the ground where I could work on it without having to bend over. And I got the generator off the motor and set it up in there, and realized that the one critical clearance issue is the brake control rod, which comes right here. Now the base of the motor is going to sit right up in here, so I had to get that, start putting that into position, and if I'm going to be positioning the motor, I might as well install that. So we got that all set up, and that's back in there. So now let's take and set the motor up and see what we got to work with here. Okay, at this point, the motor's back as far as it can go. We are, there we go. We're up against that bracket right there. So that's one clearance issue. And as far as down in the mounting plate, we've got that spot right there that is the critical one. So it looks, and the plate for the steering column right bolts in right there, so I can't go too much further back. But overall, that don't look too terribly bad down in there. And I'm back onto the plate here. However, man, I'd like to have get another half an inch. I'm gonna have to stick that plate on there and see, because this right here can be relieved, and I can make access for my oil drain and cooling fins and things like that. So yeah, I think that looks considerably better. Hey tubers, new day, another day down in the shop, and look what just showed up. Just picked this up off of Amazon. Remember, I referred earlier to the front axle, and I needed a roll pin assortment. Well, guess what I got here is a lifetime supply of roll pins. It's probably got every pin I'll ever need for the rest of my life, so we are good to go there. Just looking at my manual here, seeing what they say about the adjustments and things like that, and the belt routing, and for the clutch, and how it's going to work on this unit over here. Because, there's the pulley there with the spring, and there's the belt guide that keeps the belt from popping off the pulley when you release it. And so, we're going to probably go hit the front end and see if we can get that back together. Try and do something there, and go from there. Talk to you soon. Well, tubes, the problem when you're working on something like this, or anything, that you didn't put together originally, the factory did, and then you take it apart, and you take it apart in the way that, where if you need to get to one part, you got to take the other part off first, and that. You go to put it back together, and you're not sure what piece went on first before the others, so you just kind of have to logically work on it. And one of the things I'm looking at is my steering shaft here, and I wanted to make sure I got that into place before I started messing with the motor mount, so I wouldn't have to do it any longer. And so I got it in there, got it adjusted, and got the gear all nicely greased up. But there's a bronze bushing in the top and bottom of this shaft. Down here too. Right there. And I was wondering how those got lubricated. So I just went ahead and I drilled and tapped a little hole here and screwed in a Zerk. It'll be behind the battery, underneath the console, so I can get it to at it from behind the dashboard. And decided to put that in there so that the steering column itself can get some lube once in a while. So we'll see how that goes. Well, tubes, I think we're getting pretty close here to where the motor's going to eventually end up. I'm not too sure I'm going to have to add a second engine plate on there. 3 of the 4 mounting bolts are, you can't really see that one too well, but they're on the plate. And the front 2 here actually are almost lining up. Let's see there. Down through there. And what they're actually lining up with are the bolts that the grill used to bolt down to, not the original engine mount bolts. But needless to say, the motor's centered. It's back. This tab right here, I'm not sure exactly what that does, but that might have to be taken out if I want. I can't really pull the motor back any further without raising it up at least a half an inch, and I'm not sure I want to do that. I want to keep that center of gravity as low as possible. But got my console all nice and painted up, and the chassis all bolted together. These 2 bolts and those 2 bolts there, and just going along here, and got my roll pin in, and looking at this, I have to redo my front bench support here. I think I'll put one center one underneath the middle there so that I can get my tie rod and everything. I am going to look for some, actually, see if I can find some thrust bearings right fit in here. Those just kind of ride on washers. I could probably stack up washers, but it'd be nice to have a little bearing in there to fill that gap and support the weight and make it easy to steer, make the wheels easier to turn. So we are making progress. Now the generator, this is where it mounted. This is where it was located before, and I'm going to try and reposition it down below here. I might have to, I'm going to pull this bracket out once I figure out the clearance here, and maybe bolt this bracket in under here and hang the generator down in this hot area. So gonna have to rotate it around. But that's one big heavy honking thing to put in there. So that's what we're looking at. Talk to you soon. Thanks for watching.